to today's video, and in today's video, I will be doing a 2024 election prediction between Joe Biden and Ron DeSantis. Now, Biden is obviously an incumbent, and I believe he recently said that he was going to run for re-election, which is a phenomenal sign for Democrats. If he doesn't run, they may be screwed. Kamala Harris, her electability is debatable. She's a good suburban candidate, and she's pretty decent with minorities. It'll really depend on how strong she is with the white working class, because they really seem to hate her. If the Biden administration is very successful and they have a lot of white working class support, she could do very well. But obviously, Biden announcing that he's going to run is obviously a very good sign for the Democrats. And DeSantis, he's one of the most likely Republican candidates. It's probably him, Trump. I've already done a Trump versus Biden prediction. Nikki Haley. I don't know if I've already done a Haley versus Biden prediction. And then Marco Rubio, Josh Hawley, they kind of fall in that. Donald Trump Jr., they all kind of fall in that after area. But those are essentially the front runners. So I'm going to start by labeling all of Biden's safe states: Washington, Oregon, California. Colorado, I think it would probably be safe. DeSantis would probably do better among minorities than Biden would. But Biden would be, DeSantis would do better among minorities, but Biden would just be strong enough in the suburbs, even if DeSantis is also a strong suburban candidate. I wrote an article. I discussed his strength as a suburban candidate. He's not as strong as people say. But he is definitely a strong suburban candidate. But I just think that it's probably going to shift a little bit, especially considering the fact that Biden will likely be a popular president. If we go over here, we go look at his approval rating, we go look at the net favorability. This is on Civics, by the way. According to 538, he has a much higher approval rating than Civics, and they both, I think they stretch it a little. I think that Civics is stretching a little bit, and not giving him, the popularity. I think that they're underestimating his popularity, and I think that 538 are overestimating it. But we look at even in Colorado on Civics, he has a net 5% approval rating. DeSantis won't be able to do anything. But for his safe states, I do think he'd probably carry Montana safe. And Nebraska's first, he'd probably carry safe. Missouri, Missouri and Indiana, it really depends on if he carries them safe or not, because it depends on if he's able to maintain his Trumpist populist, look if he's able to still look Trumpist and populist, or if he looks like an establishmentarian Nikki Haley type candidate. If he looks like an establishmentarian, I'll probably win them by likely margins. If not, he'll probably win them by safe margins. I think he'll probably just win them by safe margins. For Biden's likely states: New Mexico, Virginia, Maine at large. I do think he would carry Minnesota by a likely margin, and I'll explain why. I think that he's a strong enough candidate with the white working class. I don't think that DeSantis would have enough appeal in the iron range, maybe against other candidates, but not against Biden. And then Nebraska's second. I think he would also win safe. I think that DeSantis would do slightly better in the suburbs, but it's a leftward shifting county, especially if Biden's a popular incumbent. He'll probably win it by likely margins. Now, for DeSantis' likely states: Kansas, South Carolina, Iowa, Alaska. Maine second. I'm not going to label likely. I forgot to label Virginia. That's definitely going to be safe. So for Iowa, I'm not certain. Biden is a fairly strong candidate with white rural voters, but I think that DeSantis is also strong with white rural voters, and I think that Biden would probably do better, but he'd probably still lose it narrowly by a likely margin, probably close to being a lean. In Alaska, it was likely this election. Biden will probably be decent with minority voters, so DeSantis will probably be better. It'll probably shift slightly to the right. South Carolina, it was like this in 2020. It was 11% for Trump. I think that DeSantis will probably win it by a slightly smaller margin, just because it's going to continue to shift to the left. And then the state of Kansas, Biden, he lost it by a margin, and he'll be able to do well enough with white rural voters to be able to win it, or not win it, lose it by a likely margin. Now for Biden's lean states, not Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire. That is it. So, for Michigan, he won it by a lean margin in 2020. He won it by a lean margin in 2020. I don't think that DeSantis is a strong enough candidate with the white working class. I mean, like, he is the next best after Trump. But Trump is going to do the best out of any Republican in the Rust Belt. And if Trump wasn't able to beat Biden in the Rust Belt, I don't think that DeSantis can. And same thing in Pennsylvania. I mean, like, Trump lost Pennsylvania by a lean margin. Biden is a stronger, Trump is the strongest Republican in the Rust Belt. Other than, like, maybe Pat Toomey, but him running is completely out of question. He's already announced his retirement. Maybe, actually, Ron Johnson's too Trumpist. Maybe John James from Michigan, he could be decent. But anyways, back to Pennsylvania. Biden won it by a lean margin. Trump is the best Rust Belt candidate there is, or at least for the GOP that we're gonna see. If he lost it by a lean margin, I don't see DeSantis losing it by anything smaller. For his lean states, though, Texas, Florida, Ohio, Maine second. Now, Texas, Biden will probably perform similarly to Hispanic and Latino voters. I mean, like, he did horrendously, and he will be the incumbent. But DeSantis also has a lot of Hispanic and Latino appeal. So I think those two may cancel each other out, and DeSantis will probably perform similarly to Trump. But then he'll probably do narrowly better in the suburbs. Maybe slightly worse. It really depends. I think he'll do slightly better, but that I don't know. The suburbs in the state are going to continue to shift, but Biden will probably do better in urban areas. It'll be close, but I do think that it'll still be a lean state by like 3.5%, so probably like a 3.5% DeSantis state. Florida, I wasn't actually sure whether or not I should put this in the likely margin. DeSantis is the incumbent governor from the state. Like, I feel like a governor is essentially the closest you can get to being, like, president just from statewide officiating. And, I mean, like, he's looking like he's going to win this race by, like, 9, 10, 11%. So, I mean, like, he could win it by a likely margin. I just think on the presidential level, he may lose it by a lean margin. It'll be close. It could be likely, though. Likely Florida is not out of the question. I may actually label it likely, just because he's so popular in the state, and Biden's such a bad candidate among Hispanic and Latino voters. It only needs to shift 1.6% to the right from Trump, and DeSantis is looking like he's going to win the governorship by a pretty large margin. So for Biden's tilt states, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and Wisconsin, and for DeSantis's North Carolina, I keep on doing like the same 2020 map, but I feel like a lot of these candidates, it would just be like the same map. So in Nevada, I mean, like, DeSantis, he is a stronger candidate than Biden, I think. Or not stronger candidate. He's a stronger candidate for minorities than Biden. And I just think that Biden being poor among minority voters, and considering the fact that Trump isn't the GOP nominee, he'll probably do pretty well. He might win Washoe County. I doubt it, though. He'll probably lose by like 1.5%. State of Arizona, DeSantis is a strong enough suburban candidate, and that like traditionalists and moderates. Biden's also a lot more moderate. Not that DeSantis is a moderate, but he has a lot of moderate appeal. But I think that considering the fact that Biden will be the incumbent, and that he already carried, I think he'll probably narrowly carry it. Same thing in Georgia. I mean, like, DeSantis won't be strong enough in the suburbs, and he won't be strong enough in Atlanta. He'll probably do decent in rural Georgia, but I think that he'd be a good enough candidate. I think in 2020 he would probably win it, but in 2024 he'd probably lose it. Wisconsin, similar thing to earlier. Trump was the best candidate in the Rust Belt that the GOP have. DeSantis just won't be able to win it by, or won't be able to lose it by a similar margin to Trump. Like, maybe a similar margin, but not anything better. In North Carolina, I mean, like, it could be lean. Biden will just probably do better since he's the incumbent. And the suburban shift, I feel like the suburban shift will likely happen regardless of Trump's running. But Biden is not one of the best candidates for the Democrats if they want to enact this suburban shift. And, I mean, like, DeSantis is obviously a pretty strong candidate for the GOP in the suburbs, but I do think that he would still carry it by a tilt margin. So yeah, this is the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like below. Stay tuned for my next video tomorrow. I'm really not certain what to make, so please, once again, comment suggestions down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all later. Bye.